I've got a gig coming up. The PA setup is pretty simple. Mic on the kick drum, 3 vocal mics. Since our amps won't be monitored, sent to front of house at all, what kind of tips do you have for balancing our live mix? 2 guitars, drums, bass, Beatles style. Our guitar amps are pretty distinct, but what else can we do? Different pickup styles, EQ tips. Cool, that's a great question. And I would assume probably a pretty common question because that is a relatively common band setup, and that's how people have been playing rock and roll shows since the beginning of time. So it's interesting, I was talking to a friend of mine, and there has been, for better or for worse, mostly for better, a change in the landscape over the last couple years. Because PAs and digital mixers have gotten more affordable, a lot of people have upped their game in live sound. So, you know, a Behringer X32, these digital Allen and Heaths, the QSC touch mixes, the Personases, all those sort of things, these racks, these like rack mixers and, you know, iPad mixers. Now, it's not like a crazy thing for just a local band or a local guy to have 16 or 24 channels to plug everything in and mic it and all that sort of stuff, and even be able to record right out of their mixing board, which is cool. The thing that's not cool that I see sometimes, and like I'll experience with people that I work with sometimes, is like, hey, if we can't mic every single thing, then we shouldn't play this show. Like if we can't mic up all our amps and have every single drum and the hi-hat mic and a snare mic, then it's gonna sound bad and we shouldn't be able to play, and we need 2 overheads and, you know, all this sort of shit, because that's just like not how rock and roll band has to be. And because we're kind of used to this digital stuff, you know, 16, 24, 32 channel mixing stuff, a lot of people are frightened to just go rock and roll style like what you're describing, Alexander. So my tips for you would be guitars on opposite sides. You know, there's some standard obvious stuff. So guitars on opposite sides, bass amp closest to the hi-hat. It would be good to have more information about like the size of the amps, what kind of amps you're using, size of the bass amp, size of the room, how many people are gonna be there, that sort of stuff, wattage of the amps, that kind of thing. If you have a long cable, you can walk out to the front, have your band run part of a song, or you can just, like my band will just strum an A chord, drummer plays a rock beat, each person checks their mic, you can sing a little bit of something, just say check, just make sure you're doing it as loud as you're gonna sing and close to the microphone. That's really important. It's not a good idea to go check, 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 check really far from the mic and then, you know, scream into it when you're actually playing. The other thing that I would say, you asked some good questions. What else can I do to differentiate the guitars? So different pickups sure will make a difference, but you guys are gonna be playing different guitars, you have different amps, and you're different players. So you're gonna sound different anyway, but the best way to do that is actually gonna be in the guitar arrangement. And I know that's probably not a great answer if you're playing later today. You're just like, I'm gonna, you know, rewrite my song or whatever. But let's say if you guys are playing the same chords. So let's say you're playing a C chord and you're playing down here, right? If you're playing 8th notes on a C chord, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 3, 4. Your other guitar player could be up here, or just making sure you're not in the exact same place, so you'll be filling out different frequencies. Also, low frequencies are what will get muddy. You can typically cut some lows from guitars. Mid frequencies are what will cut through the mix on a guitar. So if you're like getting lost in the mix, you can boost the mids. The high mids are what gets harsh on a guitar. So if a guitar is really feeling ice picky and hurting your ears, it's probably that. Main thing to keep in mind, people need to hear your vocals above all else and your guitar solos. Like if they can't hear the singing, they're gonna be like, well, they're gonna do this. And then if you're playing a guitar solo and it sounds like no sound is coming out, they're gonna be like, and that's pretty much it. Otherwise, you know, for the setup that you're talking about, as long as everything is audible, it's gonna be great. And that's called rock and roll. So to summarize the quick tips, if you can, get out in front of the stage to hear a little bit of a sound check. Ask a friend that you trust, you know, do we feel like the levels are balanced? Think about the arrangement, make sure you and the other guitarists are not playing the exact same thing. make sure the vocals are audible, and if you can, make sure you can get your guitar leads or your solos boosted over the rhythms. I think it's gonna be great. Thank you for your time.